The nation's all set to witness the strength of its Air Force on the occasion of the 88th Air Force Day. The recently inducted Rafale fighter jet will also make its flypast debut in this Air Force Day parade at the Hindon Air Base. Two Rafale aircraft will be a part of the event. One will be static, while the other will be a part of the formation. The special day will be celebrated with a ceremonial parade and a flypast involving a variety of aircraft. This flypast is expected to begin at 10 a.m. The event will see 56 aircraft take part, and last year there were 51 aircraft that had participated. Abhishek Bhalla is joining us live this morning from the Hindon Air Base. Abhishek, good morning. A lot of excitement over this year's Air Force Day celebrations because the Rafale is going to be a part of the flypast.
Good morning, Akshita, and a very happy Air Force Day to all our viewers. I am at the Hindon Air Base and just behind me is actually the Rafale that is on display along with some of the other fighter jets of the Indian Air Force. Next to the Rafale, to the left is the Mirage 2000, and on the other side is the LCA Tejas. We'll also witness a mesmerizing air display in some time from now. And just to remind our viewers that it was exactly a year back on the 8th of October, which was Air Force Day, when the first batch of the Rafale fighter aircraft were handed over to the Indian Air Force back in France. It's taken almost a year for the Rafale to be operationally ready, and it's here with the Indian Air Force at the Ambala Air Base. In fact, the official induction took place a few days back, and since then the Rafale has also been flying sorties over Ladakh, which has been seeing a tussle with China over the last 5 months now. The Air Force playing an extremely important role in that standoff there as well.
All right, Abhishek, so at 10 o'clock is when we're expecting the flypast to begin. We understand essentially, Abhishek, that two Rafales will be a part of the Air Force Day celebrations and one is going to be static, so people are going to be able to see it up front.
That's right, Akshita. In fact, that's the one Rafale that is on static display. I'll ask Kripalji to just close in and zoom in, and you can get a very clear view of the Rafale that's on display for the viewers here. And the other one will be part of the air display that will start at 10 a.m. It will carry out lots of maneuvers. It will be part of two formations that the Indian Air Force pilots will be part of. So, of course, a very important day for the Indian Air Force. The Rafale in all its glory is there at the display and also being used now by the Indian Air Force. In fact, the Air Force Chief just a few days back said that by the end of this month or by the end of November, there will be another set of Rafale that will be coming to India. So by the end of this year, in all, there'll be 10 Rafale jets with the Indian Air Force completely operational to take on any kind of challenge.
Okay, Abhishek, we'll keep coming across to you. On the occasion of the 88th Air Force Day, we'll be seeing a flypast, as is ceremonial, what is usually seen every year. This time, the highlight is that the Rafale is also part of this flypast, expected to begin at about 10 a.m. this morning. And the all-weather strategic Atal Tunnel has turned out to really be a game-changer. The first army convoy crossed through this tunnel from Manali to Ladakh yesterday. The Atal Tunnel reduces the distance between Manali and Ladakh by 46 kilometers and travel time by almost 5 hours. The 9-kilometer-long tunnel is built at a cost of 3,200 crore rupees. This tunnel will play a crucial role for our forces given the current standoff with China. It will remain open throughout the year as opposed to earlier when the valley would be cut off for about 6 months due to heavy snowfall almost every single year. Moving on to some other stories. After spending 28 days in jail, Riya Chakrabarti was granted bail by the Bombay High Court. The Narcotics Control Bureau, which was probing the alleged drug link in Sushant Singh Rajput's death, had accused Riya of being involved in funding illicit drug trafficking. Those charges fell apart as Justice Kotwal of the Bombay High Court declared that Riya was not a part of any drug racket or was not a drug dealer.
28 days in jail and Rhea is free at last. Arrested for alleged drug link to Sushant Singh Rajput's death, Rhea got a major respite as she was granted bail on Wednesday afternoon by the Bombay High Court. Justice Sarang V. Kotwal pulled apart the Narcotics Control Bureau's charges against Rhea. In his scathing observations, Justice Kotwal declared that Rhea is not a part of a drug syndicate. The NCB had accused Rhea of dealing in illicit drug trafficking. While arresting her on September 8, the NCB had called her an active member of drug syndicate connected with drug supplies. The Bombay High Court now says that Rhea is not part of drug dealers. She has not forwarded the drugs allegedly procured by her to somebody else to earn monetary or other benefits. The NCB had slapped Section 27A of the NDPS Act on Rhea, accusing her of financing illicit drug trade and harboring others involved in it. The charge is punishable with minimum 10 years in jail. The court, however, observed that simply providing money for a particular transaction is not financing of that activity, and that financing will have to be interpreted as providing funds for operating and sustaining drug trade. So Rhea spending money to get drugs for Sushant doesn't mean that she financed illicit traffic. The Narcotics Bureau had also alleged that Rhea knew that Sushant consumed drugs and concealed it. But even this allegation was demolished by the High Court, with Justice Sarang V. Kotwal saying that no drugs were recovered from Rhea or Sushant Singh Rajput's house. And in that case, there was nothing to show that she had committed any offence involving commercial quantity of contraband.
The CBI till today, in spite of 2 months of investigations, has found nothing. Rhea Chakravarti and all the people who were interrogated by the NCB, there were 2 teams created, one of the Mumbai NCB and one of the Delhi NCB. Both of them, they hounded Rhea Chakravarti and so many film stars only to get free publicity from the media.
Another big relief for Rhea will be that a forensic audit of Sushant Singh Rajput's bank accounts has not revealed anything suspicious. Remember, Sushant's family and the Bihar police FIR had accused Rhea of siphoning off 15 crore rupees. In fact, of the over 70 crore worth of transactions in the past 5 years by Sushant Singh Rajput, only about 55 lakh rupees were found to be related to Rhea. Sources also tell India Today that there's nothing to prove that Rhea could have pushed Rajput to suicide for financial gain.
After 28 days, Rhea Chakrabarti has walked out of the jail. However, her brother is still behind bars. His bail was rejected by the Bombay High Court. However, freedom for Rhea does not mean that she is in the clear. The CBI investigation against her for suicide abetment is still being investigated. With cameraman Prakash Mordhara and Sameer Shanbag, Vidya in Mumbai for India Today.
Let's also get you the latest updates this morning on the investigation into the Kerala gold smuggling case. The Enforcement Directorate, which has been probing the financial angle of the case, has filed a 303-page charge sheet in a special court under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, or the PMLA. In its charge sheet, ED's named former UAE consulate Swapna Suresh, Sandeep Nair, as well as a former employee of UAE consulate PS Sarit. Not only that, the ED's made a sensational claim saying that the accused Swapna Suresh, who is in custody, has said that Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan was aware of her appointment in the space park of the Kerala IT department. ED in its charge sheet has also mentioned that the former Principal Secretary of the Chief Minister, that's M. Shivashankar, had helped Swapna in carrying out her affairs and has now sought a detailed grilling of him as well. So far, the main accused, Swapna Suresh, has been arrested in the case. Many have been grilled. The matter had come to light after 30 kilos of gold worth over 14 crore rupees was smuggled in a consignment that was camouflaged as diplomatic baggage. Remember, the diplomatic baggage is immune from checks, but it was busted by the customs in Thiruvananthapuram. This was back on July 5th. The showdown between the BJP and the TMC is escalating in Bengal. The uproar over the murder of Bengal BJP leader Manish Shukla has in fact has erupted as the party has decided to hit the streets against the Mamata government. The BJP youth wing has planned a protest march to the state secretariat against the worsening law and order situation. In response, the TMC government wrote to BJP asking them not to flout COVID protocol. The state government has also closed the secretariat ahead of protests, citing that the building would undergo a sanitization drive. The state government has also said they will deploy over 1,000 personnel to block all entry points of the rallies towards the secretariat. Sources reveal that water cannons, tear gas shells and even batons have been kept for backup by the Howrah and Kolkata police. Two TMC leaders, that's Prasanta Chaudhary and Uttam Das, have been named in the FIR filed by the Bengal police in the BJP leader's death. One more accused, Nasir Khan, has been arrested, making it the third arrest in the case.
यहाँ की जो हिंसा की राजनीति है उसके कारण पूरा बंगाल के लोग आज पीड़ित हैं, लोग गुस्से में हैं और आज की युवा हर तरह से यहाँ पीड़ित है। इसलिए आज युवा मोर्चा के नेतृत्व में हम नवान्न अभियान कर रहे हैं। ममता बनर्जी जी की हिम्मत नहीं हमारी प्रश्न को उत्तर देने की, इसलिए आज नवान्नों को बंद कर दिए हैं और भाग रही हैं यहाँ परिस्थिति से।
US Vice President hopeful Kamala Harris and Trump's Vice President Mike Pence traded charges over America's COVID response. At the VP debate, Kamala called Trump's COVID response the greatest failure of any US administration. Kamala said that if there is a coronavirus vaccine available during Donald Trump's administration, not backed by scientific advices, she will not take it. US Vice President Mike Pence defended the United States' response to COVID-19, which has killed over 2 lakh people. In fact, Pence added that Trump always prioritized the lives of the American people.
Senator, I just ask you.
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
The reality is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year. We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives.
Kamala also in the beginning of the debate spoke about her mother, who's an Indian, saying that she was 19 when she gave birth to Kamala in California and would be proud of her right now.
Asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25. At Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud. And she must be looking down on this.
And let me also take this across to Pratiksha Gildial, a senior journalist who's joining us from Ohio. Pratiksha, good evening. I think while there are a lot of differences, many people on either side of the debate some saying Kamala did better, others saying that Pence had better points. I think what we can all agree on was that this was a lot more civil, a lot more informative than what we saw in the presidential debate.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's one takeaway, one main takeaway from this debate, it is that it was far more civilized and far less chaotic than last week's presidential debate. We heard about the policies of both the candidates and their parties. That's not to say it was a perfect debate. There was a lot of skirting around issues and dodging of questions, but at least we heard some amount of policy in there. Now, as for Kamala Harris, I thought she was quite effective, very incisive. She immediately tore into Vice President Mike Pence and his administration's response on the pandemic and how it has been handled. She time and again spoke about 200,000 plus lives being lost in America. That's more than 2 lakh lives being lost here. And she really tore into him. Vice President Pence, on the other hand, like was his normal, calm, collected self. He defended his boss, President Trump's response to the pandemic and other issues. There were other issues that came up. They sparred on climate change and taxes. One interesting trivia that Kamala Harris brought up was that, according to a New York Times investigation, President Trump has paid allegedly only $750 in taxes. She was like, hang on, when I first heard that, I thought, is that 750,000? It's unbelievable that the President of the United States only paid $750 in taxes. And then she made it a point to tell the American people that the President is $400 million in debt. Now, that's something President Trump is not going to like, because he doesn't like being seen as a loser, as a losing businessman.
Another point, Pratiksha, that really stood out for me in this debate was the entire discussion on race. What we saw previously in the presidential debate was Trump not openly coming out and condemning white supremacists. That's something Kamala Harris brought up. Pence this time around said that's not true, that they're more than willing to condemn white supremacists.
That's right. I mean, President Trump was quite ambiguous in last week's debate when he was asked to outright condemn white supremacy, although later he did say to reporters and to press that he does condemn it. But a lot of people saying that his response was just not adequate. And remember, race is a very divisive issue here in America. This has been a summer of racial reckoning, with protests and even violence across the country on the issue on how the police deals with people of color, particularly African American. Now, remember, Kamala Harris is part black, and she has taken a very progressive stand on the issue. She does think that there needs to be a rethinking of how policing is done, if not complete defunding of the police. President Trump's administration has constantly gone at it from a law and order issue. They have constantly just pointed out that there is violence happening, that protesters, that the Black Lives Matters protesters have committed violence in parts of democratic run cities. And that has been really his pitch to his voters, that if you elect me, I will set this straight. If Biden is elected, America will further slip into chaos. Of course, there's no evidence for that yet.
Okay. Pratiksha, I appreciate you joining us with all your inputs on that debate. Remember, it's the only vice presidential debate ahead of the United States elections. Whichever way you stand, one thing is clear. Unlike the presidential debate, this time around, we got to see a productive discussion, and it's clear on what Kamala Harris' stand is and what Mike Pence's stand is on different issues.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.